Rodeos started in the 1800s by people working in the horse industry. These people knew the limitations of the animals. They knew what the animals could and could not do, so they created the sport of rodeo around these things. Bucking and running is a natural thing for horses and bulls, and that is exactly what they do in the sport of rodeo. Rodeos have been opposed by animal rights and animal welfare groups such as PETA and the Humane Society. Many groups argue that rodeos are cruel to animals. The rodeo industry has specific rules regarding the care and treatment of the animals, which were established in 1947, 7 years before the Humane Society was started. Rodeos aren't animal cruelty because the rodeo industry continuously works to address issues such as the care of animals, breeding, competition, transportation, and financial impacts. The average bucking horse or bull works less than 5 minutes a year in the arena. So how is this animal cruelty? Some people might argue that it isn't the way they are treated in the ring, but the way they are treated outside the ring. Every year there are bulls born who were bred from champion bloodlines with the intent of being used as bucking bulls in the rodeo. The average lifespan of livestock is 2 to 5 years, but it is not uncommon to see a 15-year-old bull still bucking at a rodeo or a 20-year-old bronc still performing at a rodeo. Most people against the sport of rodeo think that it injures the animal, but that is a very rare occurrence with injuries less than 1%. People who compete in rodeos take care of the equipment they need, and the most important piece of equipment is their animal, so why wouldn't they take care of it? It's like any other job. If you were a truck driver, you would take care of your truck, because if you didn't, you might break down while making a delivery. If you break down while making a delivery, you don't get paid, then you have to pay to fix the truck. So in the end, you've lost money. It's the same with a rodeo animal. If you don't take care of your animal and then you went to a rodeo, it would most likely get hurt. And then you wouldn't place, which means you don't get paid, and you're left with an injured animal that needs to be taken care of and no money. The Canadian Professional Rodeo Association supports the responsible and humane use of animals and believes that all animals utilized in the entertainment and sport industry should be given proper care and management. Franklin Rodeo Company breeds livestock for the rodeo industry. According to Kelly Armstrong, livestock manager for Franklin Rodeo, many of their bulls are world-class athletes. Their athleticism is recognized as much as a human athlete. There are people who come to the rodeo to see a particular animal and to cheer them on. Some famous bulls include Quiet Riot, Smackdown, Perfect Poison, and Bushwhacker. Bushwhacker was named 2013 Bull of the Year and inducted into the Pro Bull Stats Hall of Fame. A story about Bushwhacker's retirement was featured in the sports section of the January 14, 2014 edition of USA Today. According to Kelly Armstrong, livestock manager for Franklin Rodeo, the care, feeding, and rest of the livestock comes before his own personal care. Rodeo professionals have more than a financial connection to the animals. The Professional Rodeo Cowboys Association has over 6,000 members who compete in over 500 events across the United States. The PRCA has a comprehensive livestock rulebook with over 60 rules. These rules govern the care and handling of the livestock. These rules include everything from the equipment that can be used to the weight of the animal. Everyone involved in the sport of rodeo, from the contestants to the livestock contractors to the veterinarians that care for the animals, have spent their entire lives working around these animals. The horses are fed the best hay and grain available to ensure the health of the animal. Most of the time, the care of these animals comes before their own care. It is in a rodeo's best interest to ensure that the animals are treated humanely. This is why there are vets that check all animals prior to and after the events. Additionally, all the judges are trained to look for any neglect of the animal. If a judge suspects that an animal is neglected, the contestant is disqualified. Most sports have rule books and bylaws that competitors are required to follow. There are rules about equipment, and there are parameters around the equipment. For example, in the news recently, there has been much talk about the New England Patriots and how the ball used by quarterback Tom Brady did not contain the correct amount of air. It would appear that a rule was broken, but still this team will be playing in the Super Bowl. Any neglect of animals at a rodeo disqualifies the animal and the owner responsible for that animal. Most people are not aware of these rules and may only believe things like the use of a cattle prod. They may argue that this is inhumane, yet not think that a shock collar used with an invisible fence is okay. The cattle prod uses a C battery, which is the same battery used in a shock collar for a dog. So if this cannot be used in a rodeo, then people should not be allowed to use shock collars on their dogs. Bucking broncos are tested at the age of 3 for their bucking ability. Prior to that, they are out in a pasture being handled like any other horse. After being tested, they are turned back out to pasture to roam for another 3 or 4 years. This allows their bones to fully develop. What this means is that the broncos spend most of their life in their natural environment. During this time, they are handled like any other horse, but they are not trained to be ridden, so they still have their natural bucking ability. Unlike the racehorse industry, where horses are broke at the age of 2 before their bones are fully developed. According to an article in Off the Track Thoroughbred, racehorses are exercised for about 20 minutes in the morning and then are returned to their stalls and kept in a stall for most of the time. This leads to injuries and sometimes death, such as what happened to Ruffian. The Bronxen bulls used for bucking events at a rodeo are bred by and provided by stock contractors. Stock contractors breed animals for their bucking abilities. These animals are born and raised on a ranch where they live most of their lives in their natural environment. Contractors take the very best care that they can of these animals. Most of the people in the industry do it because they care and respect the animals. When traveling to a rodeo, the animals are transported by trained, experienced drivers. The trailers are constructed to be comfortable and safe. There are rules governing the amount of time that livestock can spend traveling. If a violation is discovered, then there are penalties involved. Once the animal arrives at their destination, they are fed and examined. If an animal isn't feeling well, they will not perform well. If a stock contractor has an animal that doesn't perform due to illness, then they will not be asked back to that rodeo and the stock contractor loses money. Compare this to the cramped quarters of animals being hauled to slaughter, which is where most of these animals would end up if they weren't being used in the rodeo industry. According to former U.S. Department of Agriculture veterinarian Dr. Lester Friedlander, in the summertime, cattle are transported 1,200 to 1,500 miles in cramped hot trailers. In the wintertime, these animals are transported in an open trailer where the wind chill factors are minus 50 degrees. These animals often spend up to 10 hours in these conditions. Animals buck naturally. In the sport of rodeo, the strap used on a bronc is called a flank strap, and it is wrapped in sheepskin. Some people think that the strap is wrapped around the horse's genitals or contains spikes. This is not true. As the horse kicks, the flank strap loosens up, so the strap encourages the horse to kick out. The rope used on a bull is a loosely braided rope. There is not anything in or on the rope that will hurt the animal. The bell is on the strap for weight. Its main purpose is so that the rope falls off and lands on the ground. Dr. Matt Dirge, veterinarian for the PRCA, said that he has never had to treat an animal for an injury from a flank strap or spurs or any other rigging. Many of the horses that are used for the timed events or roping events are owned by the cowboys and cowgirls who compete on them. The rules and bylaws apply to these contestants as well. In the roping events, the participants have a set time to complete the event or they are disqualified. In roping, the calves' horns are wrapped for their protection. Bucking chutes are constructed in a way so that animals will not be hurt. In steer wrestling, the steer must weigh at least 400 pounds. In most cases, this is twice as much as the cowboy. Some people think that it is the twisting of the steer's neck that causes the steer pain. This isn't true. What happens is that the cowboy is coming off his horse at 35 miles an hour and has a biomechanical advantage. When he stops the steer and turns its head in a different direction, the steer then falls to the ground. Twisting of the steer's neck is used by veterinarians to get them to the ground so that they can treat them. Vet Matt Dirge said that in 26 years of practice, he has never seen a steer's neck hurt from bulldogging. Rodeos have been known to boost the economy in parts of the world. One of the largest rodeos in the United States, the daddy of them all, Cheyenne Frontier Days in Wyoming. The original intent of Cheyenne Frontier Days was to keep alive the Way of the West. It was also to help drive tourism as a way to boost the local economy. In 2012, the total revenue to Cheyenne during the 10-day event was $25 million. This included the revenue to restaurants, hotels, stores, and vendors at the rodeo. Rodeos like this could not be successful if patrons thought that animals were being abused in order to provide them with entertainment. I have been to this rodeo, and they have a behind-the-scenes tour so that you can attend. If animals were being abused, they would not let you back there to see all the animals. Some people say that the sport of rodeo is crueler to the humans that voluntarily participate in the event. 6 out of 135 cowboys cannot last 8 seconds on an 800-pound bull named Bodacious. When these cowboys get bucked off, some suffer broken noses, bursted eye sockets, and other injuries. Yes, it may be true that there are people in the rodeo industry that ignore the rules so that they can win, and in the process cause harm to their animals. This is not unlike athletes who use performance-enhancing drugs or guns in the hands of the wrong person. If you have ever been to a rodeo, you will quickly realize that it is not unlike any sporting event. Most sporting events have the national anthem played before every rodeo. But at rodeos, the cowboy prayer is also recited. The cowboy prayer says that the cowboy isn't looking for an easy go or any favors, but that when it is all said and done, their entry fees are paid in full. By including the cowboy prayer at the rodeo, it is implied that the cowboys and cowgirls are held to a code of conduct which includes taking care of the animals. Condemning an industry based on the actions or opinions of a few people is wrong.